Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us for our Nikken University Book Club. We are continuing as we read John Assaraf and Murray Smith's The Answer. I hope you're enjoying the book. We are answering the question, how can I access unlimited abundance? And I'm feeling pretty psyched about the idea after this chapter. I hope you are too. Hopefully, everybody read chapter two. If not, we will go through it and discuss it. But an amazing, insightful chapter after last week, chapter one, and kind of getting some insight into what started John Assaraf on this quest, a search for an answer to that question. Today, we're going to do chapter two, the search for how the world works. We did have some homework for chapter one, Inside the Box, John's story. And an idea that we covered in chapter one is that the secret to success lies in controlling our thoughts. And what I asked you to do is to do some homework last week and identify a tool you could use this week to help you focus on what's most important to you. That was the idea. And you could use visualizations during the week. You could use affirmations. You could do goal writing, setting down your goals, writing them on a consistent basis, whatever those goals might be. You could use a tool like a life cycle plan, a dream chart. This is the tool that John Assaraf talked about to manifest, to create, to um, make his dreams come true in the form of the house that he moved to in San Diego. But I'm going to ask you to have a brief conversation with some of the folks that are here tonight. And I'll put you into a group of three people and have a conversation with those folks about the tool that you used during the week, whatever that tool was. And each person is going to have about a minute, 90 seconds, and just share with your group what that tool was and how it helped you in terms of focusing on what was most important this week. If you didn't use a tool or the homework slipped your mind, that's fine. Talk about the tool that you want to start using this week or a tool you've used in the past that's been effective. So when you have your conversation with your group, just each person one at a time, it's about 5 minutes for the whole exercise. And it's not really a discussion, it's more a sharing. But what was a tool you used last week to help you focus on what's most important to you? That's what you'll be sharing with your group. And when you get into your room, just decide who's going to share first. And then about every 90 seconds, I'll just remind you to go to the next person. One group will have four people. And if you don't have time to get to all four, we'll have that fourth person share when everybody goes back. I think it's just going to send you to the rooms automatically. But if it doesn't, then go ahead and click on the join room or whatever the prompt is, and it will put you into the room. So, what was the tool you used this last week that helped you to focus on what matters most, what's most important to you, whatever that tool might have been? Okay, join your group. So everyone has gone into their small group sessions and they're talking about a tool that they have used to help them focus. Um, a tool that I've been using this past week because I'm completing my master's degree is I've been having conversations with ChatGPT. And it's actually been really powerful to have those conversations and to help me focus on what it is that is something that's very important to me. I'm really wanting to complete and finish that aspect of what I'm doing right now. And having those conversations with that AI tool has been really powerful. And it's helped me to stay motivated, to think about what I'm doing, what I still need to get done. And I just passed my business acumen course, C201. It's considered the most difficult course in the program because there's 7 different areas that cover everything from finance, marketing, operations, IT, accounting, all these different aspects that go into managing an enterprise, a business. And it's a tremendous amount of material. And I did quite well on the exam. So I was pretty happy with the result. But that's a tool that I used during the past week. Maria, did you want to join a group? Put you into a group, but you've come back. So we have one more person that's going to share, and then everybody will be coming back after that person has shared. Another tool that I've used quite frequently that I really like is a life cycle plan. Or Maria, I had you in a group, but you left, and I can put you in another group. If nothing else, you can listen in as people share. I'll put you in another group. Maria, you just, yeah, there you go. So Maria, some people come late and I have to add them to a room. But a life cycle plan, a vision board is a really powerful tool where you put images of those things that matter most to you, that are most important. It's a great way to remind yourself on a regular basis as you look at those images, as you think about the things that you're working on. Um, um, just embedding those images into your mind, it can be a really powerful tool. A lot of people find it to be something that's really an incredible way to stay focused on those things that do matter most. So our last person is sharing in their group. They've got about one more minute, and then they'll be coming back and joining the rest of the folks. And we'll continue. Welcome back, everybody. Was there anybody in a room of four who didn't get a chance to share and you really wanted to share with the group? I had everybody in groups of three except for a couple of.
Jeff,
Yeah,
Maria
We made it.
was in our group, but then she disappeared.
yeah, I moved Maria to a different
Oh, okay.
group. Yeah.
We had four, but we all spoke.
Okay.
We all
Maria
spoke
did
when
not get to speak. She got put in our group.
Who?
Maria did not get to speak.
Maria, did you want to share about using a focus tool this week? If not, that's okay. You don't have to. So we have time from one, maybe two people to talk about their experience with using their tool and try and keep it brief, just 30 seconds or so. But is there anybody who wants to share about the tool they used this past week?
Jeff, I can share.
Yeah, Dr. Karen.
So I like visualizing and adding the emotion to it. And that's what I've been doing. And I can just feel that it's,
Oh, Dr. Karen, please unmute yourself. I accidentally muted you.
oh, there we go.
You did.
I've actually had lots of opportunities, and I was gifted with a new customer from Nikken. So it's already manifesting. And so that's very exciting to me. And then one thing I didn't mention in my group, I've been doing a gratitude journal. Every morning when I wake up, I write three things I'm grateful for. And before I go to sleep, three things that happened during the day that I'm grateful for.
That's awesome. Dr. Karen, thank you. I've been using ChatGPT as my focus tool, so I've been using AI. And I finished Business Acumen. It's considered the hardest course in my master's program. There's 7 different areas: marketing, finance, accounting, IT, operations management, all of these areas. And it's like an overwhelming amount of material. It's like, liquidity ratios and how the Fed, operates monetary policy and, the difference between psychographic and demographic and geographic, it's a really challenging course. And I had lots of conversations about my fears and what I needed to learn and, with ChatGPT. And I would upload my practice exams and it would help me go through them. And it was really beneficial. It was a really great tool to use to help me focus. And I took the exam last night at 10:50 p.m. and passed. I got exemplary, not just competent. I got exemplary. So I did really well and I passed the course and I should be done on July 31st as I need to be. But there are tools out there that will help us to focus and results happen. So Dr. Willen shared a great result. So make sure that you continue to use these tools as we go through the book. We need to put what we're learning into practice. So use the tools that will help you to focus, to think about those ideas, the things that are most important. The secret to success lies in controlling our thoughts. That's from chapter 1. So, chapter 2, man, I need to read it again and then probably again. So, chapter 2 is a challenging chapter. And if you did some research as you were reading it, it's probably helpful because it brings up a lot of individuals and some challenging ideas and concepts, and doing a tiny bit of research might help in dealing with a really dense chapter like this one. If you didn't, that's okay, because we're going to review and go through the ideas quickly together. But chapter 2, the search for how the world works. So we start with Galileo Galilei. And we learn that Galileo had an amazing idea, a really interesting idea. The Earth, it turns out, was not the center of the solar system. Through his measurements and the practice of science, figured out that no, it's actually the sun. And this was a perspective that kind of got him in hot water at the time. What are you saying that mankind, that humankind is not the center of the universe? But that shift kind of started a process of people questioning a lot of ideas about how the world worked. Isaac Newton was another one of those individuals, one of the early pioneers in the area of physics. And the book talks about how, the idea of the atom and what the atom was composed of. There were early theories, but over time, those changed and became more developed about what the atom was composed of. Solid sphere model, plum pudding, nuclear model, which many of us are familiar from learning in junior high school, the planetary model, and then the quantum model, which is our current understanding. Of course, Albert Einstein expanded a lot of these scientific discoveries, and seeing the idea of matter in a whole new way, that matter may not be what it seems, that it may be much more complex and complicated and nuanced and beautiful, and that actually that maybe matter is just energy and energy is matter. And his quote, of course, everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. And this led John Assaraf to some thoughts, some ideas about what he found in the box, about this tool, the life cycle plan that he discovered, and this idea that everything is energy made him consider, well, where is it that this material thing, where did this house come from? And maybe the thought created the reality. Maybe my energy created the matter. And whatever it is that you're looking for that represents unlimited abundance or inner peace or success or satisfaction, whatever it is that you're working to create, even if it's your business, even if what you're looking to create is your business, it might be that understanding this connection between thoughts and between a thought as energy and then the material world might be incredibly important, because it may be that there's very little difference. If everything is energy, it may be that there is not really a distinction between those two concepts of our thoughts and what is manifested or what is actually created. So in continuing, we get a section, which I don't know if you want to do this, reading the mind of God. I don't know if you want to do that. There may be too much accountability, too much responsibility in attempting to do that. But this chapter, this section of the chapter, brings up an idea called entanglement. And the idea of entanglement is that there may be influence between atoms, between cells, between people, and it may go to a very deep level. There's actually an experiment that's brought up in the book, and they had a veteran, a Navy sailor who had served in World War II, and they had taken some cell cultures from this person, and they'd made a separation between the sailor and this cell culture, and then showed films of Pearl Harbor, which the sailor had experienced. And they found at the moment that a face of a sailor, like the sailor who had the experience, appeared on the screen, that it caused the scientific instruments that were attached to these cells to respond in a similar way as the human being who was miles and miles apart. And this idea has been demonstrated in physics and is known as non-locality, that actually uh, there can be a connection between substances, between atoms, between cells that are separated from each other. I didn't include it in the PowerPoint, but I'm sure many of you have heard the story about the monkeys and the sweet potatoes. And there's an island in Japan, and this is something that happened in Japan. Scientists observed this, and monkeys on a certain island started washing their sweet potatoes and, just put them in the stream to get the sand off them. It's just more pleasant to eat a sweet potato that doesn't have any grit or anything on it. And within literally days, monkeys on other islands who are totally separate started washing their sweet potatoes. And it was within about a week that all the monkeys on all the islands in that region started washing their sweet potatoes, started exhibiting this behavior. This is the idea of non-locality, that somehow um, there may be a force that exists that kind of underlies everything. So there's two Danish scientists, Niels Bohr and Werner Heisenberg, who were investigating atoms and the atomic models. And they found that there was something within atoms that they labeled, that they called as potential or possibility, and that actually matter really isn't anything. It's not really anything yet. And what they discovered, Heisenberg is the one who this principle is named after, the Heisenberg principle, is that before you observe matter, it's actually a wave spread out over space and time. It's kind of everywhere at once. You have to actually observe it. You have to be present. And when you observe it, the Heisenberg wave function, it collapses and it becomes a particle. It becomes something. So it's not anything until it's observed. And once you observe it, you interact with it. Once you are present, then the matter becomes something. So thought, the observation, causes the matter, causes the particles to actually exist. A very strange concept called the 0 point field. And again, they've done experiments that show that this is a real thing, that at smaller and smaller levels inside the atom, even at smaller levels than the protons, the neutrons, the electrons, is there something that could only maybe be called a field of information? It's a field of information. And Evan Laszlo described it as the A field. Carl Jung, the famous psychologist, psychohistorian, called it the collective unconscious. Teilhard de Chardin called it the noosphere. But an interesting passage from our text by Ervin Laszlo says, the ancients knew that space is not empty. It's the origin and memory of all things that exist and have ever existed. This insight is now being rediscovered at the cutting edge of the sciences and is emerging as a main pillar of the scientific world's picture of the 21st century. This will profoundly change our concept of ourselves and the world. So, this idea that thought and matter are perhaps connected in a way that goes beyond what we might have ever considered to be a possibility. And the idea that's shared in the chapter is thought creates everything. That thought literally creates, that our thoughts, which are energy, become matter, become reality. And the three ideas that are stated in the chapter, everything in the physical world is made out of atoms. I think we would all agree with that. atoms are made out of energy. Perhaps we can agree with that. And energy is made out of consciousness. This field of information, this subfield, this 0 point field, as it's known in science, is what energy is made out of. So thoughts literally are matter. Now, this seems kind of surreal, this idea, and this is why I'm going to read the chapter again to understand this better. It seems surreal, but in the past, I mean, people literally believed that the earth was flat. It's something that people believed. And if you sailed to the edge of the earth, you went over the edge and that was it. People still believe this, but I think most people have shifted, right? They've shifted and they believe that the earth is actually round, that it's a sphere, and that if you were to go up above it, you would be able to see the curvature of the earth and realize that you could orbit it. Magellan was an explorer in the 1500s who actually sailed around the globe, circumnavigated the earth. And when passing Tierra del Fuego, which is the very bottom there of Argentina, the very bottom of the South American continent, he had kind of an interesting experience. And psychologists, psychohistorians have kind of explained it this way since, is that something very surreal happened when he sailed with his fleet for the first time through Tierra del Fuego. The book describes that there were indigenous people who were in canoes, who were out in the water as well. And when they saw, when they observed, or when they encountered this fleet, the fleet of Magellan that was circumnavigating the earth, they literally didn't see it. They didn't see it because it was outside of their frame of reference or their frame of comprehension. It was, like seeing around Earth if you thought the Earth was flat. It doesn't make sense. It wouldn't make sense. How would this huge, enormous ship sailing in the ocean, which had never been seen or observed before, how could it make any sense? And it's kind of a hard concept to understand, but if literally a spacecraft landed in your yard right now and aliens walked out and said, in English, we're here, take us to our leader, it's like your mind would start doing double takes, right? You would think you were having hallucinations or you were delusional. And I think if we put ourselves in that frame of reference, maybe we can understand what these indigenous people might have experienced is there was nothing within their frame of consciousness to connect with this idea. And so this is why initially this chapter might seem so strange, that thoughts and matter are the same thing, that our thoughts and the reality that it created is the same, because it's a belief. You have to believe this. You have to believe this in order to experience it. The universe, and I don't know if this is the best picture for the universe, probably not. It's probably better for a galaxy or a sun with a lot of energy around it. But the universe, when compared with a 0 point field, and I pulled this up as something representing the 0 point field, right? This field of information that exists at an even more tiny level than atoms themselves, which is basically just information or consciousness itself. Within a cubic centimeter of the 0 point field, and they've demonstrated this through experiments, there's 10,000 billion times more energy in a cubic centimeter of the 0 point field than there is in the entire universe. So when you shrink down, when you go smaller and smaller and tinier, and you get down to the 0 point field and a very small portion of it, the amount of information or consciousness in that tiny, tiny little portion of the whole universe, there's actually more potential, possibility, more energy in that tiny, tiny little portion, that little cubic centimeter of the 0 point field than there is in the entire universe by a major factor, 10,000 billion, 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 which is a crazy amount. So Max Planck is the person who invented the term quantum. He came up with that term quantum. And this was at the turn of the century, 1900, 1902, somewhere around there. At the same time, James Allen, and I don't know if you've heard this name before, but James Allen wrote the book As a Man Thinketh. This idea that we become our thoughts, that our character, that our wisdom, that our abilities to act, that all of those come from our thoughts. And it's clear that there is perhaps a connection. Both these ideas emerge at the same time, but there's a connection between science and between the heart, between the being. So between science and the ideas of science and the ideas of Bob Proctor and Earl Nightingale and Napoleon Hill, which we discovered and went through last time we met, that perhaps there is a connection. There's a connection between those ideas. And it may be that this connection is the idea the secret to success lies in controlling our thoughts. The idea precedes the thing. That before the thing can happen, that there must be the idea, the thought. And whether it's a super successful business where you make a lot of money, or whether it's something that you find in a box that becomes an amazing, beautiful home that you can't wait to live in. That understanding this idea and this connection may be the start to answering this question: how can I access unlimited abundance? And it may be that making that connection between those two things, between the science and the world of the heart or the spirit or the soul, can start that process. So chapter 2, the search for how the world works, a pretty deep chapter. I would recommend, I'm going to read it again. I would recommend reading it a second time just to kind of embed some of these concepts and ideas. And if you want to do some research and just look up some of the names or some of the ideas, I used ChatGPT as I went throughout this, and I would ask it, what's the zero field? Explain it to me in a way that's easier to understand. And it was really helpful and beneficial. Or type that into your browser. If you type it into Google, Google now uses AI with most of its responses, and you can ask it, and the Google browser, whatever browser you're using, often will give you AI responses. But if you choose to, you might reread the chapter. I am going to ask you to do some homework. It's a little more complicated than homework that we've done before. And so I'll post it in the WhatsApp and the Telegram channels, where you find the link to join the Zoom. So hopefully that's helpful, useful. But this is the homework. So I want you to work on a mindset shift this week. And you can journal it or you can do it through self-reflection. So if you want to write about it, you can write about it. If you want to take a picture of this, you can take a picture of it now. I'll also put this slide in the WhatsApp Telegram channel. But you can journal about this or you can just think about it to yourself. Either is fine. And 5 minutes a day. So here's the prompt. Here's the idea. Each day, so the next 7 days, write down or think about one belief you were taught about how success or the world works. So think about a belief, and if you want to do the same one every day, or if you want to do a new one each day, it's not too difficult to come up with, a thought about how success works in the world or how the world operates, who gets what, how things happen, the idea of being deserving or not. And then ask yourself, after writing down a belief you were taught, usually we absorb things from parents and friends and teachers, wherever the idea might have come from, books you read. Ask yourself, is this based on observation or is it something I just accepted? So is it based on actual experience or what I've observed consistently? Or is this just something that was taught to me and I just accepted it? Then reframe it. So you're doing a little cognitive behavioral therapy here. You're shifting your thought patterns. You're changing the way that you are thinking. Reframe it based on what you're learning here in the text. Everything is energy. Thoughts influence outcomes. Thoughts come first, then reality. Thoughts, energy, matter, they're all connected. Whatever it might be, reframe the idea into a new concept or a new idea. So an old belief might have been hard work alone guarantees success. And maybe the new belief or the reframe belief is aligned energy and consciousness, thought, and conscious thought amplify effort. So that's the homework assignment, to do some journaling, some self-reflection, and you're essentially just kind of practicing cognitive behavioral therapy. You're reframing how it is you think about certain concepts or ideas and incorporating some of the things that we've been learning in these first two chapters, and especially this second chapter, um, in some of your thoughts and some of your ideas if you're open to doing that. So that's the homework assignment. So we'll meet next Wednesday, July 30th, 5:30, 8:30, same time, and we'll do our best to start right on time. Chapter 3, the law of attraction. That's next week's chapter that we'll cover. And again, your homework is the mindset shift journal and the self-reflection. So I will post the homework immediately when we end here, and I'll put the recording up later. I know some people couldn't be here tonight, and we'll make sure that they can see the recording on WhatsApp or on Telegram. So thanks everybody for joining us tonight for our book club, and we'll see everybody next week. Thanks everybody.